Ukraine's huge victory in Pokrovsk, January 03, 2026. I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
Today we are looking at a really critical window of time, the last week of 2025 and the first few days of this new year, 2026.
And it seems to reveal a pretty significant shift in Ukraine's strategy.
It really does. We're dissecting a combination of major coordinated operations. There's a devastating tactical defeat inflicted on a Russian assault near Pokrovsk. Then you have these simultaneous high-impact strikes hitting Russia's deepest logistics. And on top of that, the reveal of this incredibly complex intelligence operation.
And what's really key here for you, the listener, is to see how these three different domains, kinetic, logistical, informational, aren't separate things.
Not at all.
They're all being synchronized. Exactly. We've got a dense stack of sources covering all of this, and our mission for this deep dive is to really pull out the so what.
Right. What does the successful defense of a place like Pokrovsk, which came at a very high cost for Russia, what does that, combined with long-range strikes, tell us?
And specifically, what does it tell us about Ukraine's evolving strategy and, just as importantly, Russia's persistent weaknesses?
And how Ukraine is getting better and better at exploiting them.
That's the core question. So let's start right on the front line, on the Pokrovsk axis, where the pressure has been just immense.
And we have breaking news here.
We do. A spectacular and, frankly, a baffling failure of a Russian mechanized assault that happened on January 2nd near Kherson.
This was a major push. It involved elements of Russia's 76th Airborne Assault Division, a supposedly elite unit.
So what was their goal?
The objective was operational. They needed to mass forces quickly, punch through Kherson, and really ramp up the pressure on the northern outskirts of Pokrovsk itself.
Okay, but the way they tried to do it, it seems almost unbelievable given what we know about this battlefield.
It really does.
Our sources say they used a logistics route between Shevchenkov and Pokrovsk and deployed more than 30 units of, well, light equipment.
And that's the part that's just stunning. We're talking about motorcycles, buggies, standard cars.
In a convoy.
Moving in a convoy formation.
Yeah.
It points to either, pure desperation or a just catastrophic failure of adaptation at the command level.
Because in the face of constant drone surveillance and instant artillery,
A concentration of 30 vehicles is just a giant target. It's an invitation. The Ukrainian 7th Rapid Response Corps spotted them instantly.
and the result?
Well, the destruction started while they were still on the move, likely HIMARS hitting them from a distance.
But the main event happened later.
The final fate of that convoy was sealed right at the southeastern borders of the city. The remaining vehicles just got stalled, they couldn't move.
And the whole column was just systematically destroyed while the troops were scrambling for shelter.
Right.
So what makes you say this is a systemic breakdown and not just, one bad call by a local commander?
It's the pattern. It's the rigidity. This isn't the first time we've seen this.
Ah.
Reports from just back on December 11th, 2025, showed an entire Russian convoy wiped out in a counterattack in this exact same area.
So they didn't learn.
They don't seem to be learning. The battlefield, with its density of Ukrainian drones and artillery, it just doesn't allow for this kind of mechanized movement anymore. Success now is about slow, small group infiltration.
Just a few soldiers at a time.
2 to 5 soldiers, moving on foot. Every time Russia tries to go back to rapid maneuver with vehicles, even these light ones, they just pay an absurdly high price.
And that cost highlights how important this ground is. The Ukrainian commander-in-chief, Alexander Syrsky, he noted Russia's been storming Pokrovsk for 17 months.
17 months.
So why? Why is the city worth that continuous bloody effort?
Pokrovsk is critical on 2 levels. Militarily, it's a cornerstone of their defensive line, the fortress belt. But economically, its loss would be, well, devastating. Pokrovsk has Ukraine's only remaining controlled coking coal facility.
And coking coal is essential for
making steel. And while the mine had to halt production back in January 2025 because of the fighting,
Right.
losing control of it entirely would cripple Ukraine's ability to restart its heavy industry down the line. We're talking about their steel production potentially dropping to just 2 or 3 million metric tons.
So the incredible price Russia's paying at Pokrovsk isn't just for a few kilometers of territory.
No, not at all.
It's an attempt to choke Ukraine's industrial heartland and undermine its entire economic future.
Absolutely. Which makes that tactical defense we just talked about part of the entire country's strategic survival.
And the numbers really show how unsustainable this is for Russia.
The numbers are stark. In all of 2025, Russia gained only 0.77% of Ukrainian territory.
And the cost.
They took about 83 casualties for every single square kilometer gained,
Right.
losing 910 personnel on January 2nd alone.
Yeah.
It just shows this path isn't sustainable for them.
Okay, so if the success at Pokrovsk shows the strength of the tactical defense, what's enabling it? That takes us to the strategic rear.
Yes, let's zoom out to the coordinated strategic blows that Ukraine delivered right around New Year's.
Sources are framing this as a
That's the third and maybe most critical target. Infrastructure hundreds of kilometers away.
Okay.
We saw strikes hit the Tempo depot near Ruvinsk in Yaroslavl Oblast, a huge domestic logistics hub. And then, almost immediately after, confirmed long-range drone strikes on massive oil refineries.
Which ones?
The Ilsky oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai, that one has a 6.6 million ton annual capacity.
Wow.
The Omediyevsk refinery in Tatarstan, and big fires at the Novokubishevsk refinery in Samara Oblast.
So when President Zelensky says practically every day or two Russian oil refineries are being hit, he's not exaggerating.
Not at all. It signals a sustained campaign. These refineries feed their whole military and their domestic economy. By hitting them, Ukraine forces Russia to divert precious resources just to move fuel around, slowing down every single supply chain.
And what was the fourth target category?
Drone infrastructure itself. They took out a storage site for Shahid and Geran loitering munitions at Donetsk airport.
So you degrade their strike capability and force them to waste energy and transport, just relocating their assets.
Exactly. It further strains their logistics.
That is a staggering amount of coordination. So what does this integrated approach tell us about Ukraine's evolution in this kind of warfare?
It shows the maturity of their unmanned systems forces. The analysis is that Ukraine is moving beyond just punitive strikes. This is systematic military economic attrition.
Hitting their ability to command, to fuel, and to strike all at the same time.
You're ensuring Russia can't reinforce, can't coordinate, and can't sustain the kind of high-intensity operations like the one that just failed at Pokrovsk.
So some sources are calling these operations integrated and saying they have no real parallel in modern military history.
I think that's fair. It's an asymmetric strategy designed to neutralize Russia's biggest advantage, which is just sheer mass.
That shifts the conversation entirely. If the kinetic strikes are targeting the engine of the war, then we have to pivot to the intelligence dimension.
Because the battlefield isn't just physical anymore, it's profoundly cognitive.
We're moving from kinetic warfare to the war in the shadows.
And this might be the most fascinating development of the whole period. The special operation recently disclosed by the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, the DIU.
This sounds like something out of a spy novel. We're talking about the staged elimination of the Russian Volunteer Corps commander Denis Kapustin, also known as White Rex.
Exactly. The method was pure counterintelligence theater. They staged an attack on his minibus with one FPV drone. Then they used a second drone explicitly to film the burning wreckage to generate what looked like compelling visual proof of his death.
Which was then leaked to Russian channels.
Right.
So why go to such incredible lengths just to fake a death?
Well, the objective was twofold. First, obviously protect the commander's life. But second, and this is the crucial part,
Yes.
the operation was designed to flesh out and expose an enemy agent network.
How would that work?
By monitoring who celebrated, who mourned, and most importantly, which parts of the Russian security services actually believed the information and acted on it. By doing that, the DIU could map the connections of the agents inside Russia's own operational environment.
That's a high-stakes intelligence victory, using deception to get concrete counter-intel results. How does that compare to Russia's recent attempts at this kind of thing?
The contrast is pretty stark, really. The DIU operation is nuanced, it's multi-staged, and it's aimed at a long-term strategic gain.
Whereas Russia's attempts.
They often seem crude. Take the unpersuasive claims about a Ukrainian drone hitting Putin's residence in late December. That was just quickly manufactured propaganda.
Or the information war around the Corley strike on January 1st.
Exactly. Ukraine says it was a legitimate military gathering. Russia immediately tried to frame it as a civilian tragedy to justify hitting more Ukrainian infrastructure. The DIU operation shows Ukraine turning the tables, using high-level deception to compromise Russian networks, not just reacting to propaganda.
Okay, so let's bring in the high-level strategic context that supports all this. The key personnel shifts and the international support.
Right. On January 2nd, President Zelensky made some really significant changes. He moved Kirilo Budanov, the head of the GUR, the Defense Intelligence.
To head the office of the Ukrainian president?
A huge move.
Yeah.
And replacing Budanov as GUR head is Ole Ivashenko, who used to lead the Foreign Intelligence Service.
Why make these changes right at the start of the year?
Well, Zelensky said it was about a greater focus on security, defense development, and the diplomatic track. It signals a recalibration.
Placing your top intelligence mind right in the president's inner circle.
It definitely suggests a new emphasis on intelligence-driven decision-making and maybe preparing for future diplomatic talks.
And this internal strengthening is being matched by external commitment, especially from Europe.
Critically, in mid-December, the EU indefinitely froze 210 billion euros of Russian assets.
That's nearly $250 billion.
And it's not just symbolic. It provides real financial leverage. It's the basis for a reparations loan for Ukraine of up to 165 billion euros.
And the condition on that loan is key, isn't it?
It is. It's only repayable if Russia agrees to pay reparations. It's a powerful financial signal that the EU is in this for the long haul, which completely undermines Russia's strategy of just trying to wait out Western support.
So if we pull all these threads together, the tactical defense of Pokrovsk, the deep strike campaign, the sophisticated intelligence ops, and the sustained political backing. What's the big takeaway for our listener at the start of 2026?
The start of 2026 clearly shows Ukraine successfully leveraging its asymmetric advantages.
Its deep strike capabilities, long-range systems.
Coupled with very sophisticated counterintelligence. All of this is imposing massive systemic costs on Russia's entire military economic base.
And at the same time, they're successfully defending key sectors like Pokrovsk by capitalizing on Russia's repeated tactical rigidity.
Their inability to conduct a successful mechanized assault against a modern defense.
So the strategic landscape is really changing.
It is. The war is shifting away from that traditional linear attrition where Russia has an advantage in pure mass to a multi-domain contest of precision, endurance, and intelligence.
And in that game, Ukraine is setting the new standards.
I think so. The whole narrative of an inevitable Russian victory is just falling apart. They're taking these immense, unsustainable losses at places like Pokrovsk for a reason.
Because their military is incapable of achieving a breakthrough without that horrific cost.
Precisely. They need Ukraine to concede these regions in negotiations, a demand Ukraine is actively resisting by destroying the Russian rear.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider.
How long-range drone technology, which was initially developed just to counter frontline assaults, is now acting as Ukraine's most potent strategic lever in any future negotiations. By striking deep inside Russia at fuel, logistics, and command, Ukraine is forcing Moscow back to the hard reality that a military victory on their terms is economically and physically out of reach. It's becoming a powerful long-range deterrent.
A powerful deterrent indeed, and a clear sign of Ukraine's evolved strategy. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.